Well, good morning, Terrence.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm at least fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me.
Uh, it's my pleasure, I think. How was your holiday?
Well, this is a workathon, so it's going quite well. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
yours?
Working family time, so it's great. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. I'm so glad, Terrence. And let me thank you so much for being in my life. Let me start there. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I'm trying to figure out how you keep up with all this information and all these connections. It's amazing to me what you do. So
Well,
I'm
thank you. It's
yeah.
really a 50-year plan. Back in 1984, I launched this thought concept called the PAR Referral Network. And the idea
Yes.
was that everyone in my network could be empowered to accomplish their goals and objectives. And the more I could help them to identify what their talents, skills, and abilities were, the better I could able to match them together. So that's the underlying thread that kind of holds all this together.
Well, it's interesting because I'm wondering how do you deal with the dynamic of our people don't seem to do well, or I'm struggling with our people working together for the common good as opposed to their singular interest.
Yes, let me begin recording and I'll answer that question. Give me just 1 second here. Oh, we're already recording. well, well, technology is great when it works. And welcome, Richard Nelson, to this collaboration. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Good
Good
to be here.
morning.
Well, I've begun recording automatically. So this is part 12 of what began as a collaboration with Lloyd Helferty and what he calls a C4 group with Mufadal Mirza back 12 weeks ago. And it's kind of morphed into being what it has always really been, which is an encounter think tank collaborative. Richard Nelson is one of the first members of that when it was launched. Terrence, for your information, Brad Carson was one of the first people I also invited. It was December of 2013 when the first rejuvenation of the Encounter think tank began. Professor Marcella Oliva, she was is head of the Department of Architecture and Environmental Design at Los Angeles Trade Technical College. It was she that started this really even before the group met. Um, and her husband, Michael Riddler, was very much a part of this from the beginning, although he has not been an active member of the actual meetings that were held. It was Marcella's work almost, I guess, 13 years ago in writing a grant for the Los Angeles Community College District, a $4 billion grant that was able to actually fund the E7 architectural studios. And consequently, they were able to recruit and train community college students to develop what has now become the largest geospatial database in the world. And they did this on the campus of the Los Angeles Community College District. They actually orchestrated and illustrated and not just not just simulated, but actually developed a construction plan over $10 billion. And I had the pleasure of actually attending meetings at the Encounter Think Tank that had been designed by these students. So it's all come kind of full circle. Not long after that, well, actually before that, it was Lynn Crandall in, I think, April 25th of 2010 that introduced me to the network of people now that we're involved with, particularly Ken Wyrick. He's the one that connected me with Marcella Oliva. And at the launch of the Encounter Think Tank, let's say the first part of January 2014, I immediately reached out to my international network. I invited, well, locally here, Paul and Tanya McDonald were among the first people I invited. They were the chief researcher and president, respectively, of Global Business Incubation. I've been a member and alumni of that since 2000. I also invited Corin Smith, who I was introduced by them in 2009 as a chief know-how officer of GBI. My role was zero-time solutions facilitator, so they connected us together. not long after that, I believe Glenn Crandall invited or shared with us Richard Nelson and his invention, or at least his inventions, plural. But primarily, what engaged Corn's interest in mine was that it was all based on sacred geometry. And that's a matter very close to my heart because I feel like it's sacred geometry that will help us re-engage our youth with creating their own narratives based on their indigenous experience. And that's kind of what brings me full circle, Richard Nelson, just to let you know. I'm so glad John Kerr is here. I'm so glad that the evolution of what's happened now has expanded to include stakeholders in this collaborative, not just the Revelation Network, Lady Alicia Hamilton, for whom I've been the international media director for quite some time. It will be her network that will likely, push out to 400,000 subscribers, the edited version of these last 12 months, last 12 weeks, and also the subsidiary activities that have been happening along the way, particularly that of Richard Nelson. It's his work with Aubrey Zung that's been continuing simultaneously with these meetings. And I think we're happy to announce that we're at the crux now of what's going to be launched as the Bubble Factory, a way for kids to enjoy and understand the fun of bubbles, but also to demonstrate its applicability to what we need to have in all designs if we really intend to accomplish the objectives of the Sustainable Development Goals that were set up ahead of us. The other stakeholder I'd like to express appreciation to is Mr. Sheldon Williams. He's not with us now, but he's the CEO of the Ed Food Foundation. And I was amazed and gratified to meet and connect with him earlier this year. It was actually May the 25th with the launch of what was then the first annual Africa Week 2020 in collaboration with PhD Dima Muhammad. The idea was that we would actually have not just one day of celebrating Africa Day, but also an entire week. And it was an online event that reached out to people around the world and throughout the diaspora to unify them in one platform where they could connect together and share their activities, share their visions, and share plans of action. The result of that was that it was Lady Alicia Hamilton, Sheldon Williams, and I that for 24 hours a day for the next 5 days orchestrated worldwide collaborations. And it was after that Sheldon Williams embraced the idea of 10 days of Juneteenth. So we again had a multiple marathon of activities online. Along the way, I was introduced to Josephat Moses. He's the CEO of the Center for African Volunteers in Kenya. And I shared with him as we were planning for this Juneteenth celebration. Well, actually, I asked him what his understanding of was Kwanzaa. And being a native speaker of Kiswahili, of course, he said, well, it means harvest. But that's all it meant to him. He didn't understand the relevance of Kwanzaa as a cultural celebration. So I had the opportunity to explain to him that here in Los Angeles, after the 1965 riots, there was a group of people that came together, the US organization, that launched what's now known as Kwanzaa. In fact, we're in what they call the second day of Kwanzaa. It begins on December 26th of each year, and it runs through January 1st. So it's actually a reflection of the word Janus, or January, which is a Roman description of the god who looks both forward and behind. So here we are. As I explained this to Josephat, he was intrigued and believed that this is something that should be shared with the cultural connection that he had in Kenya and throughout Africa. So hence the phrase After Kwanzaa came about, and that actually worked very well with the original concept that Corn Smith from Bermuda and I had devised back in 2012. At that time, the African Union was finalizing its its own regional description of what a post-millennium development goals would look like. Just to go back a little bit, it was in 2000 when the worlds came forth, the planet or the countries came together with one banner of achieving what they consider to be Millennium Development Goals. And that was from 2000 to 2015. That's a very interesting time. At the time, the Secretary General of the United Nations was Kofi Annan, who was the first sub-Saharan African to hold that post. So he had lived experience with the objectives, but also the challenges that we faced with accomplishing those goals. It was, in fact, as I understand it, only a handful of people in the basement of the UN that came up with the eight Millennium Development Goals. However, I've been actively involved with that myself personally since 2009. That's when I was brought in as one of the negotiating team that was successfully able to get the country of Senegal to host the Millennium Development Goals of 2009. And so I was very active and aware of the activities going on. And what engaged my interest most was what they call the big push of 2010 through 2015 to actually focus on getting the world more involved with that than just a handful of United Nations representatives. The result of that was a worldwide survey called The World We Want. They actually solicited surveys over 3 million youth and adults around the world over a 2-year period of time. But it was actually the continent of Africa that contributed the most of the regional information that has informed what now has become the Sustainable Development Goals and their own development of what they call the Common African Position on the Post-Millennium Development Goals. However, that too had direct implications for them with the 50-year plan. 2013 was a pivotal year. It was the 50th anniversary of the founding of what is now called the African Union. That was originally called the Organization of African Unity. And so they were looking for, I should say, Madam Zuma, who was head of the African Union Commission, as I understand it. She actually had a vision of something that will sound very familiar to Terrence and probably to Richard as well, and maybe even to Mafadal, which is she envisioned a future 50 years hence by looking back from then to see what it would take to get from where we are to where we need to be. As a result of that, they created the African Union Agenda 2063. They broke it down into two 10-year plans. So from 2013 to 2023, we're right now in the midst of the first 10-year implementation plan of the African Union Agenda 2063. And that'll be most impactfully felt around the world in just less than a week away from now, when on January 1st, there will be the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area. So, Terrence, that's just kind of a background to you of what brought this weekly collaboration together. And the idea is that we're taking personal responsibility, which is human right number 29, to actually do the things that are able to facilitate the accomplishment of the Sustainable Development Goals. So Richard Nelson's invention, or I should say again, inventions, they deal with food security, which is Sustainable Development Goal number 2. And it is, in fact, food security and trying to accomplish zero hunger that also impacts Sustainable Development Goal number 1, which is no more poverty. And also Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which is good health and well-being. So over the course of the last 12 weeks, we've evolved from focusing on just SDG number 2 and then to 1 to 3 to on November 8th of this year, we also added number 4, which is quality education. Again, Bermuda has its fingerprints all over that. It was the children in Bermuda who were students of the Cedar Bridge Academy that were sick and tired of being sick and tired, as Fannie Lou Hamer famously spoke. They unfortunately were having another uptick or spike in violence in their community. They had just had 2 people killed, shot, 2 people killed, stabbed, and machete attacks. And this was 10 years after they'd gone through a similar cycle of violence that was called out by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan in his visit in 2009, when he claimed that it would be up to the individual to take sole responsibility of their actions in their own communities to avoid finding themselves the same place. Yet, in fact, they did. So it was the United Hood Nation in 2016 that had begun doing, I think, 30-city tour of the United States. Ironically enough, warning people about the adverse effect of vaccine cocktails on the underprivileged and uninformed, uneducated community. But Minister Tony Muhammad, at that time, West Coast Regional Director, he was also championing the peace treaty that we had arranged here in Los Angeles on July 16th of July 17th of 2016. That was orchestrated by, at that time, Snoop Dogg and the Game, through the direction of Louis Farrakhan, to meet with the chief of police here in Los Angeles, as well as the mayor. As a result, or following that, there was a massive peace rally, if you call it that, here where I live. I live in Death Alley, a name that was given to us by the Los Angeles Times because we have the highest rate of gang violence and deaths in the entire county of Los Angeles, with its 14 million inhabitants. That's been true at least since the 1992 civil unrest, or what's better known as the Rodney King riots. But we're still dealing with the after effects and aftermath of the government-inspired crack cocaine endemic here in Los Angeles. That's much like what Ken Burns documented back in the jazz area when, unfortunately, Billie Holiday and others were caught up in that scandal of genocide, which is kind of where it brings us back today. On the screen, you'll see the Sustainable Development Goal number 17, Partnerships for the Goals. That aligns with number 8 of the Millennium Development Goals, which is Global Partnerships for Development. So in essence, Terrence, what we've been demonstrating here for the past several weeks is that there are activities that are going on in our local communities that have a major impact on all the Sustainable Development Goals. But the challenge is that only 5 corporations own 95% of the world's media. So the narratives that we're getting are unrelenting in their negativity and shock value, but very, very, very or they have a paucity of information about things that are going well. So I want to thank all of you for participating with this. There have been ongoing activities along the way that, again, highlight the ways that we are individually helping to accomplish those goals. I want to give special thanks and shout out to John Kerr, because their Victory Gardens concept there in Canada is one that Michael Wendler has indicated that's also happening here in Los Angeles. And yes, Joe, we do look forward to ways to expand the work that you're doing locally on a global basis. The Ed Fu Foundation has provided us with an opportunity to move beyond just our social networking amongst ourselves to have a global impact. In the email I sent out to most of you this morning, it refers back to the Ed Fu Foundation, which is a member of ECOSOC, as is Jones' organization. But their contention is that we are in a state of genocide against indigenous people of African descent. Furthermore, the Ed Fu Foundation is, as a member of the United Nations, gives us an opportunity, if we choose, to introduce our local programs on a global scale. I'm admitting Deborah Charles now. Joan, that's kind of what brings us up to date as far as the background is concerned. What Michael Wendler has done and Terrence Mayfield have done is they've been able to shape descriptions of how our work here in Los Angeles impacts the Sustainable Development Goals, not because the country of the United States is focused on that. As you may know, we pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement several years ago, and unfortunately, a lot of the attention here in the United States has been centered within the United States, within the national boundaries, as opposed to globally. However, it is, in fact, now the 3rd year that the city of Los Angeles has been promoting what is called this Green New Deal. And that's available on the mayor's website, the Los Angeles Sustainability Plan. it was 2 years ago, or 18 months, I should say, that the County of Los Angeles also stepped up to actually focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. So the work that Michael and Terrence have done has been to shape the narrative now of the work that they're doing here in South Los Angeles to have national implications and global implications. It is, in fact, the United Nations Habitat, UN Habitat, that has a real responsibility for shaping our future as we transition from a rural to urban economy. And here in the United States, it is the Department of Housing and Urban Development that is the interface with that. They're responsible for, among other things, what was launched during President Obama's administration called the Promise Zones. There are two here in Los Angeles, but they're not limited to just the United States. They also extend to their territories, such as Puerto Rico, Guam, Samoa, etc. So what Michael Rendler has done is he's fashioned an introduction to next year's United Nations UN Women's event in March. Introduction of how what we're doing here locally has national and global implications through VCAP, which is the Virtual Community Action Planning tool. So with that, I wanted to thank all of you for attending. Today's session is really more of an opportunity for any of you to share updates and information. And after we wind up, I'll probably spend 20, 30 minutes myself in a recording to give us an overview or update to what we're doing. I do want to let you know we are making a transition. Originally, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Global Ambassadors was a concept that I shared with Janice De Silva last year, I guess mid-year, but by September the 21st, which was International Day of Peace, we revisited the 5 Points Youth Foundation communication on engagement that is due in December 31st of this year, due every 2 years actually for nonprofits. We had begun in again from September 21st through December 31st of 2015 to actually recruit worldwide over 100 goodwill ambassadors in their local communities to raise awareness about what the United Nations Global Compact is. There's a particular focus in Africa because if you look at a map that was designed or published several years ago about the countries where the most people are expected to die from the adverse effects of climate change, you'll find that most of those are in the global south, particularly Africa and parts of India. If you overlay that with a map of where the United Nations has local networks, you'll find that there are the least number of local networks in those areas. So we had a practical outcome intended for focusing on the United Nations Global Compact local network infrastructure as an existing framework through which we could work. Now, I do not agree, condone with, or support many, even most of the actions of the United Nations since its founding in 1948. However, I do firmly believe and recognize it as the largest international organization that could provide local individuals and private sector to engage with issues that affect the global community. So I'm so glad that we're kind of transitioning from that ad hoc international advisory board of goodwill ambassadors under 5 Points Youth Foundation into a more, I guess, rigorous relationship through the EdFu Foundation. I've been appointed several months ago as the strategic alliance coordinator for the EdFu Foundation. And please, those of you who are either reading or listening can go to edfufoundation.org /about us to kind of give you a background of that organization. But the idea has always been that there would be a group of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors who would take a commercial approach to solutions and outcomes. In other words, they expect there needs to be $5 trillion to $7 trillion every year spent between now and 2030 to accomplish the majority of the Sustainable Development Goals. Those numbers will now have to be adjusted because they were pre-COVID-19. So you can see that there will be trillions of dollars that have to be spent, not just by governmental agencies and international organizations like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, but also local corporations, or I should say multinational corporations, and their local organizations that represent those interests. What Terrence Mayfield has brought to the table is Kyocera, who, like 5 Points Youth Foundation, is a member of the United Nations Global Compact. They publicly publish every year what their goals and objectives are. So our intent is to focus now for the next 10 years on actually commercializing our humanitarian causes rather than expect our humanitarian causes to be able to enable us to survive and grow. I'm glad Deborah Charles is here. She's a recent attendee of these meetings. I think last week was her first time, although we've been hitting, I guess, doing not phone tag, but social media tags over the last few weeks. I do now recall her connecting with us. But the idea, Terrence, just to let you know, is to shift our focus from the umbrella of 5 Points Youth Foundation, which is a nonprofit 501c3, primarily limited to local activities here in the South Los Angeles area, to my own corporation. It's PAR XTC Export Trading Company as a corporate infrastructure through which we could transition from humanitarian causes to working on commercial causes. It is the Ed Fu Foundation who has a corporate structure, much like what is now known as a B corporation, that allows it to deal with both for-profit and nonprofit outcomes that strengthens our alliance. So as I was about to say, there was a subgroup of our AHIABGA Goodwill Ambassadors who agreed to work together as what's called the Global Sustainable Development Goals 2030 group that I can now foresee it actually seamlessly transitioning into what's about to occur. Perhaps with the assistance of Deborah Charles and others, we can open the doors to routing many of the dollars that are now being spent by these major corporations or have been raised to be spent to actually be spent by connecting them with our successful local humanitarian goals and objectives. So one of the outcomes of this past 12 weeks is to identify those activities amongst us that might qualify for that. Many of the people on the line right now are those who we hope to empower as we go forward. We still have to work out the details of memoranda of understanding and specific goals and objectives of use of funds and how that all works. But I do want to end by saying that I welcome you all here and give you an opportunity now, if you so choose, to introduce yourself on this last recording. And please begin by saying your name. And if you have an organization that you represent, please say it. If you have a social media handle that it's able for you to reach, please say it. And with that, again, even though Mafia, you did hear before Joan Kerr, I'd like to give you the floor, and please introduce yourself if you so choose.
Hi, can you see? Oh, can't see me because my camera was off. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Well, I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. And I think for me anyway, the future is so bright that it's blinding. And I hope that the opportunity that comes to me can also blind other people as well, because it's always good to bring people along and enjoy the journey. So that's always my sort of thing. I want to be happy, and I want everybody around me to be happy too. So so what does that mean exactly? Well, I have designed a program and have sort of developed the infrastructure. I had not announced this before, but I now have 2 million volunteers for this program. And I was like, okay, that's good. I thought I only had like 1.2, and so I was discussing everything, and I the groups that I'm working with said, Joan, you have this. Just do it. I said, I have you for real, because I'm going to be writing this with the assumption that I have this. Yes, and more. So what does that mean? We want to have victory gardens everywhere, and we want to do the sustainable development implementation and train people to respond to their local community needs, and that's going to take a mammoth effect. So we wanted to put infrastructure in place, training, mentorship, funds, connection to each other, things like that. So that's what we're doing. And it actually sounds like it could be a big job, but it's not. It's like anything else. Many hands make light work. So I personally don't like centralization, and I don't like dictatorship. So I'm happy that things are decentralized. I think that when people are empowered to do things and are passionate about what they're doing, that's when they perform. Um, and I mean, I've done many things. The one is I ran a women's organization for 5 years, Business Resource Center for Women Entrepreneur. I ran a school for energy retrofitting for 5 years. 5 years is my big thing. Just if you see a trend here, other than advising, or because I've been involved in those things for a long time, but I'm talking about projects, and then let them, once they're operating, I just like to just leave them, let the people take them. I've had a history of that, so it's not like I'm talking about that. I've done it. Our organization also won the 2005 Civil Society Award from the UN for an international project, and it was called Women's Open World Empowerment Movement. It was an education program around IT. So it was for creativity and content. So we're really happy about that. We actually won that as opposed to something technical, although we utilized technology to do it at the time. And found out lots of, all of these projects led to finding out in many countries, in local communities, what were their needs, what issues did they need to address. And so our research is from our own projects for the last 17 years of the needs of community and individuals. And I have to say, FBSC was created to show how the heart can really make people perform, and that given the chance that they will identify what their needs are, and you put that infrastructure in place, and away they go. It's like wildfire. Pew. So that's what we want to continue to do, and that's how this project has come about. And so once it's accepted and everything's done, I will be asking other people to join as well. It involves technology, solar, food for technology, training and development. I mean, the spectrum, but it's all about people doing it and having the infrastructure to do it. So I have so much to say, but I'm just going to stop there and say that I'm very excited about this. And probably the most thing I'm excited about was the ask. When I asked the big organizations, can we do this? And it was like, without hesitation, they said, yes, Joan, you have a track record. Of course, we'll do it. I was like, oh, okay. Thank you, bye. So it was as easy as that. So anyway, that's what I have, and I'm very hopeful for the future. And I want to see very happy children in villages, and children being nourished. And I really think that we have a responsibility to do those things if we can, and I want to be part of that solution. Thanks.
Well, please tell us which countries that you've been involved with or plan to be involved with.
It's predominantly Africa, but it's predominantly only because there's so many countries in the continent. I can say India, but it's like one country, you go to different cities. So India, Africa, India, and indigenous people as well. I'm the new chair for the Institute for Engineers for North America, and our main focus for that is indigenous people. Indigenous people meaning the First Nations. And so we're I'm going to be doing that with IEEE as well. So but for our project, it will be worldwide. It will be on a global scale.
Excellent. Well, yes, please not just keep us informed, but keep us aware of how we can participate. We really look forward to that, as you may know. And I'm just discovering a lot of the work that the Ed Fu Foundation has been doing addresses not just indigenous people of Native American descent, but indigenous people globally, particularly here in the United States of African descent. Sheldon Williams launched the Ed Fu Foundation back in 1999 when he had his daughter, to be able to give her a vision of the reality that she lived in. And Ed Fu is actually a physical place. It's a town, a city in Egypt, and it has the most well-preserved temple of Horus in the world, which Horus is known as the protector of children. So there's a deep underlying resonance, Joan, with everything you're saying. Just last year, July, Ed Fu published, again, if you check your email, I sent you a publication by Ed Fu. They were dealing with the unfortunate reality of the ongoing genocide that's occurring worldwide, and xenophobia, racism, all these isms that are related to the fact that we're disconnected as humans, but the reality is that we're all connected as humans. So I embrace your idea and look forward to finding ways we can work and network together.
Yeah, I will certainly share. It's for everyone and for anyone to join. And in response to Terrence's chat, for the North American Working Group for IEEE, we want to work. I told them that it's great to work with the indigenous people, but why don't we work with anyone that needs help, especially if they have an infrastructure. So they've agreed to that. But because the native population, and I'm using native as in the indigenous people of the New World, it takes a long time to sort of develop the relationship and get them, because there's an issue of trust, of course, and which is totally, I understand. So I said, well, why don't we work with vulnerable communities and get them going at the same time? So what does that mean? For IEEE, the communities can get an initial $25,000 for a project, and then up to $200,000 as well. So that's the sort of guideline.
Well, thank you. That also has resonance here. Los Angeles, as you may know, even though the name is the town of the Queen of the Angels, is technically on the land of the Tongva people, the indigenous people here in the Los Angeles area. And also, we have the largest population of indigenous people in the country, at least numerically, although not statistically. Many of those are on what we call here in the promised zone areas that Terrence Mayfield and I are dealing with. And Deborah Charles, normally I go to all the females before I go to the males, but I'm going to save you for last, Deborah, if I may, and to give you a chance to kind of listen to what we're doing. So Terrence Mayfield, perhaps you could introduce yourself. Let's see if you're still here. Terrence got dropped out. Oh, Terrence, thanks so much for reconnecting. You reconnected just in time. I don't know if you heard what I said, but I did mention that Joan's intent to reach out to the indigenous people has throughout North America has implications here for Los Angeles, as the Tongva people were actually the original owners of the land we now call Los Angeles. But Terrence also, as far as the indigenous people are concerned, and as Joan says, all underserved communities, our effort to work the promised zones here and the opportunity zones may have implications around the world. So Terrence, perhaps you could, if you be so kind, introduce what Sola Collective is, and at your convenience, give us an overview of how you believe we might be able to work together after this last session of 2020.
Good morning. Thank you so much again for allowing me to be a part of this call. Joan, what you're doing is just remarkable. These 12 weeks discovering what people are doing has blown my mind. It makes me see how inadequate I'm doing of a job with the things we're doing over here. However, it serves as motivation for me to do more and to do better.
And so what exactly are we doing here with the Sola Collective? And if you would be so kind as to share how what we're doing here locally with Kyocera may have implications throughout the United States and worldwide. Terrence, I'm not sure if you heard me or not. He may be having connectivity challenges. If that's the case, Richard Nelson, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself, and then we'll follow, and we'll come back around to Terrence, and then Deborah, and we'll wrap it up.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, good to be here again at the end of the year. And Andrew, thank you for that introduction and history that reached back, and it's a really good resume of all the kinds of relationships that I think are giving birth to this group here. I thought that I might mention that in the UN Charter, there actually is a charter for a sort of class 2, or there's a type of institute in a charter 1, and then there's a charter 2. And my understanding is there's never been formed, and this is under UNESCO, these are UNESCO institutes. The charter 2 is available, and I have worked with a Russian scientist who has been interested for decades maybe to create the first of these Charter 2 UNESCO institutes for interdisciplinary international innovation. And so that's an idea as well, that UNESCO is, of course, operating all kinds of organizations. So these Charter 2 are not, it is a charter for individuals, professionals, academics, and people in general to form institutes that are not led by governments. So all the other, and there are many existing, are all governmental formed type charter institutions under UNESCO. So I always thought that's an interesting thing, and in some ways ad hoc, this is what I feel like this team is about, is people coming together with multiple, life experience and potential for, of course, the synergy, and that the synergy between not just non-governmental organizations, but actually individuals, who are leaders, to find their own, sort of, synergy and opportunity to build together, the better future that we look for. So, I thought that that's interesting. Of course, the connection with Habitat is also interesting going into the future of architecture, urban planning is now called, like smart communities, and all of that area. And in that particular, aspect that Michael Rendler is such a leader in. So again, that represents an opportunity that UN Habitat is connected with. And the first UN Habitat 1976 happened in Canada, was the first ever UN Global Conference as the launching of UN Habitat. And the demonstration project actually happened in Canada, in Prince Edward Island. I happened to have the opportunity, since I was living there, the chance to be engaged in that. And it subsequently was operated by the Institute for Man and Resources in Prince Edward Island, and connected with wonderful people out of Boston, Americans that came to actually design the project called the ARC. And so again, we're really looking to connect with these creative innovations that could sort out, let's say, our challenges, human challenges, and what are those challenges? Well, we were addressing these now for decades. And so that review, that history is, interesting that we realize that we've got depth if we seek it, that we're not facing these issues brand new as if we just discovered them, a year ago or so, or even more recently. But really, we have a deep wisdom even in this team, and there's a lot more of that out there if we can tap into it. So, I thought, I'd mention that. Of course, going forward now, our teams, as you know, my inventions connecting with solar roof technology are now being implemented for farmers and for communities and even individuals. So we say, backyard, schoolyard, farmyard, and even very large scale projects for cities. So these various pods, as we say, pod enterprise network, which is PodNet, P-O-D-N-E-T. We have our website out of Iceland. So it's podnet.is is the domain for Iceland. And people are welcome to have a look there. The concept of PodNet as an enterprise community, pod enterprise network, is one of formation of a cooperative, international cooperative. That's something we want to do this year. And so we have, as you know, several teams around the world and in Europe and in America now, mostly in the USA, although a couple of opportunities here in Canada, certainly in Ontario and also in British Columbia, where Aubrey Zhang is really active in the PodNet leadership and team. So, we're continuing there. And one of the projects, programs that now we're thinking of, well, not thinking, we're really planning, to implement is what we call Bubble Fun. And so although it's very preliminary right now, we have set up the bubblefun.org as a hub for this know-how and discussion. We're going to continue with meetings that will focus on design and implementation of projects. So, these are very physical, practical things that people can do. And Bubble Fun is going to seek to engage with children and create learning opportunities that are playful, because bubble technology, or bubble tech as I call it, is very friendly and can be, and well, always is a lot of fun when people start to get into it. And we like that, we like that kind of, let's say, avenue to bring an innovation to people who are, I think, would be happy to receive, a technology that is playful, that is friendly, that can be something that, people can warm up their hearts and, bring people in a community basis and really do have fun with it. So we have the Bubble Box, which we're designing, which is a kind of, machine that just creates bubbles. But it's more than that in a way, because as we look at the STEM, type of curriculum, this is really physics, bubble chemistry, bubble mechanics there, thermodynamics, energy, and we can transition to a lot of fun with the Bubble Box. Becomes a bubble tower, and it's a bubble tower shower, and kids love to play in the water with sprinklers, and this is an alternative, let's say, to that kind of play, which is that bubbles are used as a party and fun kind of thing. So we'll enable people to play around with bubbles in this way. And although we're not sure what next year brings in terms of COVID and being able to have fun, in the community, but this is something that people could do in their backyards. And what it would do too is transition to our PyroPod for the backyard, which is a DIY. And you can also join with us to learn about the PowerPod construction, manufacture, and then we have the PowerPod 4, which is small for the backyard, and the PowerPod 8, which is suitable for communities, for schools. And we're having another session on both of those later today, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. your time. So, you know, Sundays has been busy with this meeting first, and then usually we have a design session on this. So, but you can follow that, you know, all that information at bubblefund.org, which is a way for people to, you know, engage and become aware and learn. So without looking at business side of these things always emerges. We like to emphasize cooperation. So, you know, corporations, as we know, are dominating, and we do need individual action. We do need community-based action. And I do believe that cooperatives are a natural way to go. You know, the B Corps also, of course, NGOs, very active food banks, food in communities, Victory Gardens, also, especially, we look forward to a lot of you know, interactions with Joan as she moves forward with her plans. And also, I might mention too, you know, that the commercialization hub that we have, one of our cooperative enterprise members, but, you know, taking leadership in USA, is Omari Byfield's group in Maryland, near Washington, D.C., with a really, you know, strong team there, and other teams in California, Ohio, you know, different places. So I won't get into that right now, but, you know, as you would like to become involved, everyone's welcome. That's what a co-op is, you know, everyone's welcome to join in. And going with that is open source. Open source means no secrets, open data, open science. That means we can teach, because we're not holding back on what corporations do, which is they use knowledge as property. And, you know, we have to be careful about that. Being an inventor, I'm a respecter of knowledge. I do take my own issued patents as property, an IP, as they call it. However, owners of IP can decide to share, which is what I've done, and put my IP in the Creative Commons sharing framework. So, you know, there are ways to accord the benefits to inventors and innovators, and yet still not stifle knowledge and our efforts together, because, you know, the world is at stake. Yes, so is our families and our communities, if we want to make it much closer. You know, sometimes we say the world is at stake. That's too big. So we've got to bring it a lot closer. Yes, we all need to eat. And truly, we have crises connecting with food and water and climate and pandemic. So, you know, let's all kind of put aside and get through the emergency, not worry about our profits, you know, our objectives in business, as much as we do have our care for each other and managing to get through. It's going to be a challenge, and I think it's all hands on deck. And Edfu, yeah, well, we're in Montreal. I understand you're close to New York, so that's almost like local. So I'm also looking forward to connections that I've, you know, as we begin to get to know each other. And I think this is one of the great things coming out of this, these meetings now, 12 of them. It's fantastic. So thanks so much, Andrew. You're a champion for all of this kind of connecting the dots, connecting people. So very, very much appreciated.
Well, you're very welcome, William. Richard, I do appreciate your being here. I'm going to take a brief pause now and show a 2-minute video. It's called Vocabulary, hip hop version of the Sustainable Development Goals. Because after all, again, the whole intent is to get our youth involved. And one of the ways to do that is through hip hop as not just a musical influence, but as a culture. I do want to say that it was in March, I think, May 26th of 2017, that the one woman responsible for 1.2 billion people on the African continent, at that time, Ambassador Dr. Ericana Chumbari Kwao, as the African Union, ambassador to the diaspora, United States and diaspora, reached out to me directly through my contact in Washington, D.C., Mr. Charles D. Sharp, CEO of the Black Emergency Management Association. Richard, she reached out to me specifically because I'm on the National Advisory Board of the Universal Hip Hop Museum and also a brand ambassador for Generation Hip Hop out of South Africa. So her vision is that we're going to have to get youth involved, and music and particularly hip hop music is the way to do that. Now, I will say there is a difference between hip hop and rap, which is one of the genres of hip hop, because it was explained to me back in 2012 that hip hop, the acronym is the higher inner power, helping and healing our people. And so that is the original idea. And the 5 elements of hip hop involving graffiti, dancing, emceeing, etc., also has a 5th element called knowledge of self. So that's where we're trying to have a conscious hip hop reset as we go into this new millennium. So I'll just share with you briefly my screen, and it's only 2 minutes. So please, as you can, take an opportunity to enjoy this overview from a youth standpoint of what we're involved with.
The United Nations is an organization with goals of peace and sustainable development around the world. Their mission is huge, but we're breaking it down in 2 minutes. 17 sustainable development goals. Let's get to them, cause the more you know. Look, in some corners of the world today, people are living on $1 a day. Hey, that's not how it ought to be. So go 1, eliminate poverty, and go 2, root out hunger across the globe. There's 800 million people hungry, if you want to know. Number 3 is health and well-being, and getting people the health care that they need in. Learning in school are the hard to go for. Education opens up minds and doors. Goal number 5 is empower girls and women so they can have the same rights that men are given. Number 6, people need water that's clean. Poor sanitation can spread disease. Carbon-free energy is goal number 7, and how to achieve it is a question that's pressing. But if we put our minds together and work hard, we can find a solution, I'm guessing. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. Now imagine that you work all day for no pay. Economic growth and decent work is goal 8. Goal number 9 is to foster innovation in infrastructure and industrialization. Goal number 10, inequality reduction. 11 is sustainable city construction. 12, well, that's sustainable consumption. So what we use matches up with production. Goal 13 calls for urgent action to combat climate change, cause we know it's happening. 14, protect life under seas. 15, protect life on land. Goal 16 is for peace and justice all over the planet. They're in high demand. And the final goal, number 17, is the critical factor, the heart of the machine. It's the strength in the way we achieve these goals of sustainable development around the globe. Yo, 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it.
So there you have it from well, not a child's point of view, but from a youth point of view. So for those that are interested, I think I dropped the link in the chat. Also, I want to share with you just in the chat as we transition over to Mafadal. Mafadal, if you're available, please rejoin us. I know it's late there in Pakistan, so I do thank you so much.
It's Joan. May I say something before Mufadal comes on?
Of course, go right ahead, Joan.
Sorry, I'll be quick. I'm organizing a group. It will be online, of course, to discuss the futures of education, and it's a UNESCO asked me to do it. I'd like to send some information to the group to see if they'd like to participate in that project as well. So I'll send it after the meeting in the next week or so.
Well, okay. Well, I certainly look forward to that. As you see on my screen now, I have the ACE Team Village logo. That video that you just saw is also available through aceteamvillage.org. They have a virtual academy that's free curriculum, over 8,000 courses available online free to students around the world. They're based in Kansas City, Missouri, but they've recently expanded their outreach during the COVID-19 to offering the free curriculum, not just throughout the United States, but also in Ghana and places in Africa. So they too have agreed to reach out to our team in Bermuda, and we were able to involve them as one of our key sponsors in this event back on November 6th. So Joan, hopefully we can find ways we can add your curriculum to this free portal so that your outreach can be as wide as possible. So yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. And this morning, even though most of you here are because it's on your calendar, I did send out an email to I guess most, maybe 50 or 60 of our stakeholders. So Joan, if you reply to me or send me an email about your updates, I'll be happy to share that to our wider audience.
Yes, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sure. Final, before I get to you, Terrence, I see you did come back in. Thank you so much for rejoining us. The question I asked you was to share with us, if you could, the work of the Solar Collective and how you believe this collaborative with Kyocera can have not just local implications, but perhaps national and even international impact. So, Terrence, if you could be so kind.
Hello, everyone. Blessed Sunday, Christmas Sunday to all our wonderful associates globally.
Assalamu alaikum to you as well.
Walaikum assalam. And, a lot of Christmas gifts got sort of awarded to us. It was a beautiful Christmas day, 25th of December. And birthday of our founding father, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, a day of Friday. So I think all the blessing got sort of accumulated on that particular day. And my introduction basically is that I got my basic education in chemical engineering, got advanced education from Detroit, Michigan, with masters in chemical engineering, then diversified into food science. That was a great blessing for me because a food engineering, chemical engineering project was transformed into a food engineering application, and that resulted in a PhD in food science from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Got a good taste of Canada during my postdoctoral work in Nova Scotia. And so a good blend of, experience of Asia and America got integrated. And finally, when I went to Pakistan from Canada, Procter & Gamble approached me, and I became a startup team member of P&G, and I considered Procter & Gamble as my university in a way to teach me how to apply all that knowledge practically and transform that knowledge into money. So it was entrepreneurship. Basically, I learned how the multinational entrepreneurship works and what are the issues with them. So I firsthand, did a lot of things which multinationals do as their employee, and then found out that what they are doing is not right. So I decided to leave them and started my own, entrepreneurship journey. And the last employment I had was, academically, although I considered academic as not an employment. It was a very honorable, position I was enjoying as an associate professor of industrial engineering and management. And in that particular, journey, duration, I learned all the issues associated with academic institutions, and specifically all the issues related to business. So all of these overall, experience, I arrived at a point, and I didn't arrive at the point. One of my students pointed me out that, Mufaddal, you are a great professor, you are a great engineer, you are a great scientist, but you are a lousy entrepreneur. And that statement led to formation of, or transformation of Total Quality Life Maintenance Association into TQL-MA. I didn't knew at that time that, this name has a wonderful philosophy behind it. And that is that if you are interested in, living a total quality life, always delight your mothers, always listen to your mothers, always serve your mothers. And then, on a global context, now we know that mother is not just your mother, mother is Mother Earth also. So you have to be really taking care of the Mother Earth in doing it. So with that entrepreneurship journey, which started off as a proprietorship, now, few of the financial, associates joined and says, Mufaddal, you cannot do global business with a proprietorship. So let's transform this company into a private limited company. So one of my chartered accountant friend came in and he says, okay, TQL-MA should be elevated. So he elevated it to private limited company. And today, SAM's TQL-MA Global basically, is a global enterprise in a way that, all the good things I learned from Procter & Gamble and Mr. Sams Walton, who is our sort of, partner in Procter & Gamble selling P&G products. So all that model is now being transformed, into our organization, which is Sam's TQL-MA Global. And a journey started with Energime University, whereby the first assignment I had was to transform all the dairy waste of Karachi, the biggest polluter of the universe, into something of value. So I signed a contract, with the largest dairy farm in Karachi, Sindh Dairy Farm, with Mr. Bill Susinski of Energime University. And, and I was at that point in time, my role was 5% as a consultant in that business, to execute the project. But then, we found out that there were a lot of issues, security concerns in Pakistan. And then the Sindh Dairy Farm owner told me that we don't want any interest-based finance from Germany, which Energime University was bringing for the project. It was a $200 million project of transforming that 200-acre farm into a university campus. So that's how the Energime University program started, developing at that point in time, that, if you want to really make an impact, we have to really, set up the universities, set up the educational institutions to teach the people, young people, our technologies, which are not being taught in any other academic institutions. So that's how the Energime University, got formed. And now I am basically, in a position to control, not the control, but contribute towards transforming the dairy industry, which sells 10 million liters of contaminated milk, contaminated with hormones and, number of other issues, which the corporation has forced them to, use and do, which is causing cancer. Okay, and once the corporation plan is that, once the health is, affected by, food issue because food is needed by everybody. And then those contaminants enters our body with food. And then, the COVID-19 kind of pandemic begins. So the healthcare mafia comes in and says, okay, now we have, made you sick with our food. Now we are going to be curing you, and so that cycle keeps on continuing. So there is a big mafia, which is related, food and pharma mafia, we call it. And since I was part of all that mafia as a Procter and Gamble, quality assurance manager, and as a vendor developer. So I know how pharma works. I know how all my, P&G associate company works. So I got the inside information, and I, as an engineer, always like to do a very, very quick gap analysis. And I says, okay, what is the way of filling up the gaps? How can we really eliminate the problems which is being caused, by these corporations, food corporations and pharma corporations, a pH mafia, I call it. Okay, destroying the pH of water, which is a wonderful, 7 pH, and they try to destroy that so that, people, when they drink the contaminated water, they get even further sick because water is more important than food. So now, the Mr. Richard Nelson, sort of came up with a proposal whereby the water and food problem gets solved. And at the same time, people will have a sustainable place to live. So, we call it roti, kapra, and makan. Okay, so you need food and you need, clothes. And I'm transforming the clothes also into climate smart clothes through climate smart agriculture. So we grow organic cotton and, make sure that the clothes we wear is also contamination free. Okay, are climate smart. And the makan is there, makan means house. So we are now utilizing, this wonderful high speed construction technologies, which has been developed by our fellow scientists and, inventors to do it. And in order to demonstrate all the available technologies, the Christmas gift was a gold mine. As a chemical engineer, I'm in a gold mining business. Okay, and I got into the gold mining business during my trip to Africa, whereby I was told that, Mufaddal, we love your technologies, we need food, education and everything, but we don't have the money. So I said, well, how shall we do this then? Because money is required to do these projects. So the idea was barter. Okay, what we have, you take it, we barter it with your technology. So I got into the gold and diamond business because what they had in East Africa was gold and diamond. So I said, good. So now I got a PhD in gold and diamond in a way through practical PhD, got the gold and diamond from Africa into Dubai, do the value addition and, utilize the profits and bring that money back to Africa as a foreign direct investment. So the barter model was developed. And that led to the development of this people's gold coin, since I was in a gold and diamond business. And I said, well, I cannot work with fiat currency because nothing can happen because, the currency keeps on changing. And, you cannot really plan the projects well with that currency. So I said, okay, let's transform everything into gold. Okay, all the paper currency into gold. And then I found out that, well, 1400 years ago, our prophet was doing the business in the same way. Gold and silver coins were there at that time, and the business was being done in that way. So that led to this particular innovation of people's gold coin. Now we can enhance the paper currency of every individual to every government. And the $900 billion, which is being awarded, or I don't know when it's going to be hitting the individual Americans, because Mr. Trump wants to do a good deed in the end. When he leaves, that he makes that $600 into $2,000, which is the good thing he's trying to do. So now we will be transforming all that money into gold so that the impact of that, asset, which every American owns, or every citizen of our planet owns, increases by 5 to 10%. Okay, and then now the challenge we have in Aubrey, our good friend, I don't see him here today, transform the blockchain technology into holochain technology. So now we are selling Sam's holochain gold. So the gold will be protected, in a nice, wonderful, Buffalo gold mine, Sam's Wheel of Life, Farm School, sort of climate smart town. And, everybody's will have their asset in the e-wallet. So now we need holochain experts to maintain about 7-8 billion e-wallets, because, we will be actually utilizing that e-wallets to, provide all our services. So now Lloyd Halferty, a wonderful associate, always educates me, throws so much information at me that somehow I cannot really catch the sleep, which I need, to perform. So, now he said, okay, 2 billion mothers. Okay, so how can we now transform the 2 billion mothers project into a doable project? So we said, okay, let's find out 200 countries. Can we say, 25 lady engineers from each country? So now the number becomes smaller and manageable. So I said, well, no, I mean, because every country has so many cities. So the project got transformed from, UN member countries to 10,000 cities of the world. So 5 lady engineers from each city will be now enrolled in the Gamba in Climate Smart Entrepreneurship Program. And they will be actually building from January 1, 2020, 2021, this Buffalo, gold mine campus. Okay, so the project is on, the gold mine is ours. It's a $2 billion asset, we got it. And that's a blessing, I call it. Because since I started working on delighting 2 billion mothers, I got a gift of a $2 billion gold mine. Okay, so that's how now the gold standards are being formed and number of things are happening. Okay, so now that is the part of as a chemical engineer, okay, gold mining. And all the engineers will be now, working on doing climate smart or developing a climate smart gold mining and processing technologies in that campus. And as a food scientist, I'm more interested in farms. I love farms. And, we started, I mentioned the project of, all the farms in Pakistan, which I started the whole project with. So now, in order to train everybody, and since people cannot come to Pakistan, because of the number of issues which we are facing. So we said, okay, I started working on a Windham dairy farm. Okay, and that farm was, I think it was about 2015, when I was offered that farm for $1.7 million. It's a 163-acre dairy farm. And then Energym University and everybody agreed that, well, Father, it will be a good idea to set up a farm in Texas. Okay, Texas is a wonderful place. It's just like Karachi. Weather is like Karachi. And all the people and all the farmers and everybody can come to Texas, and we will train them in our technologies, and they will go out and, implement the technologies worldwide. So I said, that's a good idea. So now the gift is this, that farm is still available. Okay, and I got a confirmation from Ron Lester. So he says, Mufaddal, 1.7 has been elevated to $2 million because now a nice highway has been formed, on our property. So the owner wants a little bit more money. So I said, good. So now we have got 163-acre farm in Texas, $2 million farm, which we will be transforming also into an agribusiness park kind of a facility. So it will be a climate smart, agribusiness park town. And all the chemical processing and all that kind of other things will be done in our gold mine. Farming activities and agribusiness kind of activities will be done in our Texas farm. And 100,000 lady engineers will be enrolled and will be really building these farms. And then Joanne Kerr is going to be one of the leaders training all these ladies in how to do farming. And then these ladies, which will be trained over here, then will be actually building the victory gardens in all these communities, which was, I think Andrew mentioned that the worst areas affected by climate smart would be the coastal areas of Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and, all those areas. And so many, communities are there in those areas, which will be the job of Joy and Kerr to, delight those communities, through the Victory Garden and through our, technologies whereby we can actually now build with our lightweight construction. And I think Richard Nelson is probably, building, lightweight cars, and maybe a floating homes also can be built, with our Pyrapod technology. So all those exciting things are happening now. COVID-19, I consider that to be an angel, allowed all of us to get together, come out of the commercial activity and, come up with a plan whereby all the multinational organizations will now come and look at it, that, wow, we didn't make so much money in 60 years. These people have done it in 1 year. So that's a power of, this social entrepreneurship model, which we have developed. So we are there, $7 trillion a year of industry. Everybody needs food. And now we have transformed organic food and all kinds of food into climate smart food. So everybody is interested in, getting in our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which we will cook in our, grow the ingredients in our Way of Life Farm School, cook it in our climate smart kitchen, and 724 restaurants will be serving that kind of a food to everyone. So bad times are over. 2020 is gone. It's behind us. And the one other thing which we are currently doing is that the best testing kit, which is available to test COVID, has been developed by our, fellow, scientist professor in London, Excalibur, gives the results in 15 minutes. We have got a Global Rights Community Development Foundation as the rights, and got a price, NGO price of, that kit. That kit will be available for all people in USA. I've prioritized USA as a, primary destination. It is needed most. So 3 million kits per week are being produced. 2.5 million is going to be coming to USA, and all the mothers will be started, will start to test these, Americans out there, isolate the Americans who are positive in these Wheel of Life Farm schools, treat them, along with vaccines and a lot of other things which are having a lot of challenges. We will grow the food, we will treat them with herbal medications, and do all the innovative things which is being developed by First Nation people. Georgia, Chief Usti has developed a solution, guaranteed, treatment of COVID-19. So all those solutions are available. We will be, providing that herbal treatments to everybody, so everybody starts recovering from COVID-19. COVID-19 gets controlled, and then, we make sure that in 2021 we enjoy total quality, inflation-free life. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share the current update, and we are ready to move forward.
Excellent. Any questions from Mafadal?
I have one. It's Joan Mufadal. Thank you for your presentation. So I just have a couple of questions. You know me, I'm a process kind of person.
Correct. I love it. I love it. I love engineers, and I mean, you are sort of leading engineers, and idea is this. I have actually, whether you accept the position or not, you are a faculty member of this campus, and specifically since, I mean, you are covering all the engineers in IEEE and, all the places, but I think specifically you should be leading, these lady engineers, which will be training.
So who is overseeing the projects?
Well, actually, I'm leading the project,
Okay, no, but who yeah, okay. So
now what we have done is this. We have formed a team now. Mariam Khan is leading the ladies part. Okay, I will be talking about educating everybody, and like Richard mentioned, IP is there. Obviously, I mean, we are intellectual property.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I know the component parts are there, but what entity is sort of overseeing what happens?
Okay, that development is this, that Lloyd Halferty introduced me to a wonderful lady whose name is Jenny Carrington. Okay, and Jenny Carrington is actually now, utilizing all his plan of, they call it Wonderland. They have a concept they've developed, and they love this Wheel of Life Farm School concept, and that's we need to now actually integrate their resources into this. So they are actually having all the organization in place, for-profit organization, which is GTI, and a non-profit component is also there. They have got experience in real estate and all the kind of expertise they need. So now they are actually physically looking at completing the paperwork of the Buffalo Gold Mine, okay, which is being acquired now. And and the plan for, enrolling all the Gamba students who will be actually building the campus as a first phase immediately, and then eventually, reaching out to 2 billion mothers. And in parallel, the wonderful strategy which has been developed is this: since they are into television and filmmaking, and Hollywood people and all those people are involved, so they will be actually now filming this live. So everyone, all the engineers which are actually working in those farms, in that gold mine and the Texas farm, will be actually live. So all the other lady engineers and professionals who are actually building the same thing in their cities will be able to build those, Wheel of Life farm, school, sustainable 110 home community in their cities also, and eventually the campus town.
So engineering is a big field.
Big element in it.
Yeah. Which engineers
All engineers.
are you?
All
Sorry?
engineers. All engineers. All disciplines.
And you have them on board at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, they are there. 50,000 engineers and from all disciplines is immediately available with me in Pakistan, because I'm actually engaging all the. Yeah, they are already there. And Mariam Khan is enrolling them, and there are 100 and maybe 200,000 engineers are available with us in India. A lot more population is there. All the IITs and all the wonderful institutions in India is part of it. Aligarh Muslim University, who celebrated 100 year of their anniversary just 2-3 days ago, is part of our network now. So all the Aligarh Muslim University alumni, okay, global alumni, they are everywhere in the world. Most of them are in North America also, will also participate in the project.
So these engineers have joined individually, correct?
Yeah, they will. It's all individual situation with them.
Okay.
So it's very
sorry,
simple.
guys. I just need to clarify. I still am unclear about who. Okay, so service providers such as the Climate Smart Victory Garden, who do they work with?
They work with Community Development Foundation, Mrs. Mariam Khan.
Okay. All right.
One single point contact.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. And then immediate thing is that I gave you, I think Mariam last time mentioned that they have got a team of 350, very, very high profile individuals who will become part of the Victory Garden.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
So what I'm saying is this: the 2 billion mothers who will be enrolled in the, TQLMA club member will also become member of Community Development Foundation as well as Victory Garden. So now you got a lot of things in your hand, Joanne. I mean, we should not be talking anymore. Should be doing things, so many things to do.
I'd like to just jump in, not with a question, but just to say that I have to leave the event. So I just appreciate the conversation, and see you all in the new year.
Thank you so much.
I will join you. I will join you, Richard, with your design team after this.
Yes.
And Richard will talk.
Yeah, I'll be there too.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Mafadal, in the chat, I've also put a link to our contact, Professor Dr. Tamara Omar. I think I've connected with her already, but she's
Yes. She's a Texas lady, okay? She will be leading the projects in Texas.
Excellent. Also, just to say this, again, to come back around to Terrence, if you're available now, Terrence, I really appreciate your introduction of the SOLA Collective and the work we're doing here in Los Angeles as it relates to a relationship with, again, a fellow United Nations Global Compact member, Kia Sarah. Also in the chat, Mufadal, I put several links just for background information. I am going to upload this to YouTube, and in the comment section or about section, I'll add links. But the idea of Mufadal is to move this forward as rapidly as possible. Tomorrow, Jenny Carrington and Lloyd and I will be having a conference just about this. So of course, yourself is available. For Joan also, I'll send you the email. So this is kind of on a fast track. This is not hypothetical. This is happening in real time as we speak.
So one other thing, Williams, which you need to do, and we need to do that with agility, is to make sure that the East Africa, network of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and all the universities linked with that, and enrollment of all those engineers from Africa is done with agility. So all, representation of each city, 5 lady engineers from each city of, East Africa participates in our project here.
Well, not only that, but in the link in the chat, I've put in again a link to this organization in Kenya. They are working with both artificial intelligence and blockchain technology to provide.
No, we know that the Kenya is, I mean, the team is fantastic, is solid. Now, what we need to give them is this, okay, just do this project. Okay, we need all the lady engineers, professionals, graduates to come to USA to get the training and then, duplicate the model in their, in their cities. So we are ready to execute now.
Okay, very well. I'm going to transfer to Terrence, but I do want to also put into the link there ADA Animation, because this same team is working with young animators throughout Kenya. And the idea is for us to take a page out of the book of the major broadcasting networks and produce our own public service announcements and also our infomercials describing what we're doing, but in an engaging way, so that we again involve our youth with what we're doing. So I look forward to connecting you as soon as possible with that team. And we're working here in Los Angeles with Sir James Bailey. He's a son of Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind and Fire, but he's an educator and he has what's called Art Life Live. And the idea is to have these young people to be behind the camera and microphones as well as in front, so that we give them a chance to create their own narrative as we go forward.
And Andrew, we need to identify a site with agility. Give me about a 200-acre site in Los Angeles, where we can start duplicating this Oregon and Texas model, because, Stan, the gentleman who is closest to this gold miner and who is working on the gold mining deal, Independence Day Inc., he is based in California. All the high-profile people, of the world are assembled in California, in the Southern California and LA, Los Angeles area. So we definitely need to build one campus over there. Again, a wonderful, place, Los Angeles. And I think, so let's identify a site over there. And I think Terrence has that, maybe university site. I think I'm looking at universities of California participating in the project.
Well, Terrence, segue directly to you. Terrence Mayfield, go right ahead.
Wow, he did lob that right to me. So one of the things that we're doing with Kyocera that I think may be a direct help as we're dealing with the schools, there are several facilities. I don't think there's not a 200-acre site that I'm aware of in Los Angeles. And I don't know if you want it broken up as satellite sites that equal 200 acres, but there are a couple of places I can check on Monday that may be able to accommodate. There's an old hospital site.
Terrence, actually, let me just stop you for a moment. There are a lot of farms in California, almond farms and number of farms are there. So we are just interested in a JV with a farm which is equivalent to whatever size,
Oh, okay.
But a campus can be built over there.
Okay.
And then
Great.
all the, colleges, university campuses is small, Wheel of Life Farm School. I only need 1,000 square meter area to do this.
What size area?
The design has been done in such a way that the minimum area required to do this project of Wheel of Life Farm School is 1,000 square meter.
Oh, okay.
So small area is required, because that will be, we will be setting up our climate smart entrepreneurship department. And that department will be producing food and, meals and everything for the students.
Oh, okay.
And a very small area can be, utilized, and we can start building it.
I can help you with that I can give you several options with that, with relationships that I have.
That's it. So just do a JV agreement with all these colleges and universities in California, and then we start, in parallel. Like, since these engineers will be building this huge climate smart campus towns, in parallel, the local team of the college and university students will be building it, in parallel. So everything is happening in parallel now. Okay.
So, Andrew, we can connect tomorrow.
Yes, but please do your introduction now, if you could, Terrence. And then
Kyocera has committed to use its breadth and impact globally to help us bring solutions that all of you are discussing on the phone. Everything, and it's really just Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food and shelter. So when we look at the live, work, and play spaces, we look at introducing what the gardens that you're talking about from Canada. So when we look at climate, net zero engagement in our development and work, smart cities, smart communities, Kyocera has committed to that. And as some of you may already know, they have 287 companies under their umbrella, everything from solar to telephones. They touch just about every sector of business. And what they've said is that they want to engage themselves with inner city communities, which they view as beneficiaries of the benefits that should come out of the United Nations. So what we are doing currently is using their power to connect to corporations. That there are several corporations that have said that they want to train 1,000 people. I'm sorry, 1,000,000 people, small number, to become technologically savvy to work in their corporations. And so that idea behind that with Kyocera is that they will walk us into those corporations to help us facilitate those relationships and tie it into a global initiative. Even though we're starting in the West Coast, they want to move across the nation and then into international space. Kyocera, as you already know, has a strong engagement in Africa. That's where they ultimately want to be. And our job on the West Coast is to tie all of that together in bite-sized pieces. I think someone spoke about breaking it down to where it was manageable. As you were talking about the women in engineering, I immediately thought about how we could connect that to these young people that we're educating, specifically young women in coding and tech, but bringing that into the initiative that you're talking about and expanding it to what you need to accomplish those women in engineering and how we need to bring that to fruition, tying them both in, as you described, as a parallel solution. And I think that we can do that. Kyocera is not shy about its commitment. It is willing to share it. It is open source with most of what they do, not everything at this point. Well, I'm sorry. They've been open source with our group. They share all of their resources. We have not taken any money from them because we wanted to make sure that we had the infrastructure and the clear mission in place of how to move it. Currently, today, we now are in the space where we are moving aggressively towards bringing the resources to table so that we can begin to accomplish this very quickly. It's moving rapidly. The connections are happening very rapidly because what we describe as a Kairos moment, most of the world is talking about this now, and there's energy behind it. So it's easier than it has been in the past. So again, Kyocera is our partner. We have a couple of more global partners that will be coming on the first of the year, and I'll share them once the agreements are in place. I'm willing to share any and everything that we have as a benefit to the group. However I can serve, we're happy to do it. Speaking for the Solar Collective team, Prince Andrew has been amazing in connecting me with the proper people, and we just want to do our part. So I hope I answered your question, Andrew. I hope I gave them what they needed. Kyocera is, again, you can look them up online. They are global in their reach and impact, and they are committed to doing it where it is sustainable, where it is long-term, not just dropping some money down, but there are real solutions that people will be able to engage to help their families build sustainable livelihoods and wealth that is transferable. Thank you so much.
I love, Terrence, I love Kyocera phone. That is
Yes.
the only phone I found, which was shockproof for my
Yes, sir.
farms, So
Yes, sir. And that's
I'm
their
using that.
product. So yes, so that's their product. All their stuff is heavy industrial products, even their computers. But now we're looking for things that, how can we build a solution for people that don't need as heavy of a duty phone? Some people like aesthetics, but it is an extremely durable product, and we have those available to us. They also have shared two things. As we go into business with them, they're interested in setting up small businesses with the people that we engage so that they can be business partners with Kyocera. So not just users of their product, but shared prosperity and setting them up as resellers and even private labeling some of the solutions so that those people have an opportunity to grow their business around the world.
So I would like to have that Sam's, maybe a branded phone of Sam's, for our, all the students which we are talking about, So we will provide them with this Kyocera product.
Yes, sir.
shockproof products,
Any
you know,
day
which,
you want to talk to them, any day you want to talk to them, I will make it available for you.
sure thing, wonderful. I mean, make it
Yes,
part
sir.
of the part of the program, you know. We need all
Yes,
the
sir.
phones they can produce, the shockproof phone with the
Yes, sir.
current best, you know, technologies, you know, available
Yes.
for our students as an educational tool.
Yes, sir. I will make that call on Tuesday.
I have a question. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Sorry,
Oh,
Prince
Of
William.
course, Joan. You know how we
Thanks.
do it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't, you know, I want to be respectful to other people. Hi, Terrence. It's Joe.
hi.
I saw someone put a master gardener in the chat. I was a former master gardener as well. I have many lives, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
So you kind of answered one of my questions already, which was Kyocera wanted to create, the goal is to create 1 million jobs, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And part of those are people to be in small business as value added resellers. And I used to be a value added reseller for AHIABGA. I don't know if anybody knows what AHIABGA was. It was $1 billion company. And I used to be their trainer, actually.
Wow.
Jeez, my life. Anyway, they were sold, taken over by another company for $2 billion or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So I wanted to ask, what was the nature of the jobs that are being proposed from Kyocera?
Oh, okay. So Kyocera, they gave me a list of positions that they see gaps in their market. And it's not just specific to Kyocera. The $1 million, the million jobs crosses sectors. Most of them are in tech, and they cloud computing, cybersecurity, coding, IP technology. I have a list of them. I think there are 10 or 12 spaces, but also there are other corporations that are involved or that are coming on board that also see the gap in their capacity to fill jobs. And they are tech jobs. So they want us to essentially start at the 6th grade, introducing young people into an incubator and evolving them in technology all the way up with mentorships and internships, so that those students, by the time they get to the 12th grade, as they graduate, they could essentially step into a job. Simultaneously, because so many of the people we deal with have justice impacted family members, where they ask us to create a curriculum that's 9 to 12 weeks so that we can engage the parents in the job training as well. The idea is that all these corporations, there's about 122 that we've identified, most of them have global impact, recognize that there's a shortage of jobs that are going to be in the marketplace, and they want to use the training modules like what we've described to bring those people into the marketplace, equipped and prepared, not just educationally, but also understanding the dynamics of culture of a corporation to do business. And the other side of that is a portion of those people, what we are negotiating now is that we don't just want employees, we don't want just entry-level employment opportunities, we want there to be opportunities for management and senior management. And also, we want there, for those that are interested in their own businesses, to have an opportunity to become vendor specific to those particular industries with the financial support so they can fulfill their POs once they receive them. What's the value of getting a minority certification if you can't fulfill the order that you receive? So we've had those conversations around it as well.
Terrence, I have a suggestion that can we give them a project to Kyocera to set up the holochain, data center in our, gold mine campus.
Yes, sir. I will. My short answer to that would be yes, because they one of their businesses is data centers, and so I will connect you. I'd like to connect you to them and let you talk to them yourself. Ask the questions that you want. Put it in place. No problem. Tell me the day, and I will make it happen.
Wonderful, and I think that will lead us to the Japanese technology coming into our campus, and so I think that's a fantastic development, because, that was a team I was interested in assembling to, maintain this 7 billion e-wallets,
Oh, yes,
and
sir.
we need this data center to do it.
Yes, sir. And so let me share this because I want to be clear about our position with Kyocera and other corporations. Our approach to them was that we wanted to demonstrate the value of doing business with people that they typically don't pay attention to. That as long as we leave people poor, we are creating a deficit in talent, abilities, and resources. They're in the people, they just haven't been unearthed. So we demonstrate to corporations, let's show you what the value is of you educating this group that you've ignored and see the value that it brings to them. So what you're describing makes sense to them because they can see the immediate win and they're looking for market share, as you always know.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And I think it makes good sense for the governments as well as for all these corporations, because they are interested in growing their business. And once their brand is, helping people, in projects and in education, automatically these students will be, utilizing and promoting that brand, throughout their life.
Yes, sir. And we describe it as shared prosperity, and that going into 2021 as we build infrastructure, we are identifying companies that are committed as we spend our dollars that are committed to helping it be a shared prosperity environment. And
Correct.
if you don't, then you can't have our money. So it's very, very
Correct.
simple.
And I think it makes good sense, Terence, that, why all these corporations are now participating, and all of them will participate because they don't have a choice. If they don't participate, they will be bankrupt very soon.
Yes, sir. Chase committed $30 billion earlier this week around housing, food, education. $30 billion this week. They just announced that they were committing. They started at $10 billion in October, and they've raised it to $30 billion.
Correct.
I took a look at it yesterday. So there are some great things that we can do. And I think that I also would like to, from an international perspective, even with you dealing with your farm in Texas, I'd like to have a conversation with you, taking advantage of some benefits that you can offer, not just the traditional EB5, but also these opportunity zones that exist and what that means from a global perspective, because the IRS and the Treasury has said that foreign investment can participate. And how do we mirror that? For instance, that farm that you're talking about in Texas, how do we mirror that overseas so that those two partnerships are growing systemically and deliberately into a project that fulfills whatever market space is identified?
Correct. And I think the technology of, will allow us to execute these, campuses which we are building, in parallel in all 10,000 cities, basically. So that's our model, So we are really looking at it, building this in parallel in 10,000 cities, meaning that, global reach is there. And whichever corporations wants to get a global reach should definitely come in and participate.
Yes, sir. And that gives us, that's velocity, and that law of large numbers causes them to rethink if they want to be outside of it. So if Prince Andrew, if you all give me a couple of days that you are available in times, I will connect to Kyocera. I'll send a text when I hang up for them to be aware, and we can talk about what you want to do with the call center as soon as you'd like.
Excellent. Mafado, just to let you know, as I said, tomorrow, I'll be having a conversation with Jenny Carrington and Lloyd about the global infrastructure and corporate structure. My organization, the PAR-XTC Export Trading Company, we actually have already existing relationships with Richard Nelson through a PAR Pioneer connection. But what we're doing, what I'm doing is structuring tri-party and multilateral memoranda of understanding among the key partners, so that we all have a basic understanding and agreement to work together. That way, whenever we go to anyone, we're showing a unified front, and then we can have separate individual relationships that are attached to each one of the agreements.
Correct. And one thing which I want Andrew to do it is this, and maybe John is also here, that all the professors, of all the universities of Canada and United States, I would like them to be participating in this project as an entrepreneur. With, everybody can participate by sponsoring one student with 5,300 PGC, or if they have 1 million PGC kind of an asset, they can join the board of directors. So I want all the professors and, who have done a lot of hard work to put all this package together should now enjoy a total quality life, not as an employee, but now as an entrepreneur.
Well, in that regard, in the chat, and now we'll get around to introducing Deborah Charles if she's available, but in the chat, I put some links to the United Nations Global Compact initiatives.
Okay.
In addition to focusing on human rights, labor, the environment, and anti-corruption and transparency, they have specific sub-projects. One of them is actually winding up now. It's the Caring for Climate initiative that Richard Nelson and I and others joined back in 2015 to 2020. But they also have what's called Business for Peace, which adapts to changes in local communities like Pakistan and other places that have conflict challenges that we'll have to work through. So it identifies those corporations that have made the commitment to do that. My contention is that those applications through here in the United States, and specifically in South Los Angeles, they have implications for the conflict areas where we ourselves are faced now with rampant crime and violence as we transition from the COVID-19. But another important reference to you, Mofadal, is again with Kenya. The university there is, I believe, a prime candidate for what's called the Principles of Responsible Management Education as a United Nations Global Compact project that would allow all universities that have a business curriculum to be able then to provide the students that we need to manage our projects as we go forward from an entrepreneurial standpoint and economic development as well.
And I'm going to just add, Andrew, to this that, since you mentioned, and this is a global project we are talking about. So, this message, this invitation is for global professors and teachers also in schools, all of the educators in, academic institutions, all stakeholders can join this project, and that will assure them with whatever the amount of assets they have, we will convert that assets into gold. So it's an immediate advantage to them. And then they will be actually generating a sustainable income for their families, through these projects which we are doing.
Well, two more things. One, there's also something called the Cities Program for the United Nations Global Compact. San Francisco was the first city in the United States to join that. But even cities as small as Compton, which I put in there, they only have, I think, about 90,000 people. But even cities as small as that can then get to the global platform just by taking advantage of what's already available as an infrastructure. So my objective from the beginning has been register 10,000 new civil society members of the United Nations Global Compact to hold accountable those 10,000 major multinational corporations. But what I'm believing, Mafadal, is that we need to take it a step further, and perhaps with Kyocera we can, because we provide a communications network for this new 10,000 people, we can actually manage and mobilize and administer their work as it relates to each of the Sustainable Development Goals, so we can get a seat at the table of the World Economic Forum and not just be on the menu, but at the table. So I do look forward to finding ways we can accomplish that objective as well. So Ms. Deborah Charles, thank you so much for your patience. If you are available and so choose, please introduce yourself and share any questions or insights or thoughts you might have about today's collaborative. That was me, sorry. Ms. Deborah Charles, are you there? Could you unmute yourself, please? If not, we've come to the end of the road. We've started this about 2 hours ago, and we try not to take advantage of your time and availability. So unless Deborah Charles would like to unmute herself and introduce herself, Terrence, I see your hand raised. I'm not sure if that was before, but if you would like to say something, now's the time to wind up as we close out this session.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to share with everyone that Kyocera is just the tip of the iceberg. They have just decided to be the behemoth in the room for us, to walk us into rooms. And they've already committed to bring their channel partners and strategic relationships to the table as we do the work that we're doing. So I want to share that with everyone. And what I'd like to open up, with Prince Andrew's permission, of course, is that whatever it is that you're attempting to do, Kyocera's position is that let us know how we can help and what we need to do, and we're committed to help you do it. So, and even if that means that they have to bring someone else into the table, they have committed to doing that. So I want to share how unusual of a relationship that it is. And I think it would be irresponsible of me to try to keep it to myself in alignment with our goals of being open source. So I'm not tied to it, not trying to keep it to myself. So it's available to everyone.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much. I'm going to play this brief 2-minute video, and then if Deborah Charles is available, we'll get to her. If not, then we'll have closing thoughts. Just a second, please. This speaks to the relationship we're having here in Los Angeles, I mentioned to you before, with the hip hop community. And we do have an international ambassador, Silky D. Williams, who was our first international ambassador for 5 Point Youth Foundation back in 2012. But we're working with the city of Compton. I put in the master gardener's information, Dr. Sheridan Ross, because he's part of our team as well. But also we have Chico Brown, who has made a commitment to do filmmaking and supply us with the ability to reach Netflix and other global markets. So let me just give you a brief introduction of the team that we pulled together here. Hit the right button, we can do the right thing. Oops. Okay, well, that's oops. Thank you.
So while we're waiting, Mufadal, I'll touch base with Miriam and go forward with our plans. And Terrence, I'll do the same with you as well. So see
Yeah.
how we can work together so that I understand my role and what needs to happen. So
Yeah, please work with her. And I think one of the things which we have agreed upon is this in terms of, because Community Development Fund Foundation will be having the fund from Excalibur, the test kits which we are selling now. And 7% of the, the gold mine project will also go to CDF. So that will give you guys a seed funding to, move forward.
okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yep, that sounds great. I did send her an email. She didn't respond, but she did send a subsequent one on her own. So I obviously didn't get mine. So
if Andrew can share the recording, with Agility, we will share the recording with Mariam also, so she is up to date on
okay.
what we have discussed, and then we move forward.
Okay, well, thanks. Technology is great when it works.
Yep.
Well, now,
True.
well, now I'm back. I'm just going to wind it up. I want to thank everyone here for joining us and being here. Just to let you know, we are in what we call the spirit of Thanksloving. And the idea is that this idea of Thanksgiving as a day is not enough for us to address the issues that we have to deal with.
Correct.
So the idea is we're going to share this Thanksloving vibration from November 17th right through next year in the Kingdom Day Connection here in here in the United States. We have the Martin Luther King Day of Service. The idea is that what we're going to do is actually continue this wave of collaboration and unity to push us forward.
And actually, Andrew,
Right,
I just want to mention one thing. When we talk about thanks, okay, and there is a philosophy in Quran, and the ayah is that when you are thankful for all the blessings which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, provides you, is azidannakum, it multiplies. The blessing multiplies. So thanking every day in every meal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to God Almighty, is the secret of really multiplying your wealth. Excellent.
Well, hand in hand with that, Mufadal, what we're addressing here is what we call, well, you may recall, it was Greta Thunberg that launched its Fridays for the Future some time ago to focus the world's focus on environmental change and damage. What we've done in Bermuda is call that Fridays for Future Forgiveness, because we have to, in other words, not just forgive the people that do things against us, but we have to forgive ourselves in order for us to work together in this Kairos moment to accomplish our goals and objectives.
Regarding forgiveness, Andrew, I will just do one more quote and of Sam's, Ahsin ela man asa alaik. Forgive your enemies.
Yes. Well,
not just the friends, forgive your enemies also.
Well, as Bob Marley would say, sometimes your closest friend could be your worst enemy, and your closest enemy could be your worst.
Friends and family members need to be forgiven by default, but even forgive your enemies, So that's a mission, So we are inclusive, we are not going to leave everybody aside. And I made an offer to Donald Trump that if he undoes whatever he has done in the 4 years, I'm going to make him a trillionaire.
Welcome. Well, on that note, let's wind this session up.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Love you all.
Bye-bye.